All right, let's dive in and talk about the United Kingdom. It's one of those places we all feel like we know, right? But when you start to look closer, its structure can be, well, surprisingly confusing. It's a real story of ancient kingdoms, massive global power, and an identity that's always changing. So let's get into it. So, first things first, let's get a sense of scale. The UK is home to about 68 million people. To put that in perspective, that's pretty much neck and neck with the population of France. But as we're about to see, the amount of space they have is a totally different story. And how much space are we talking about? Well, the entire UK covers around 243,000 square kilometers. Now, that might sound like a big number, but it's actually smaller than the US state of Michigan. It's even smaller than the country of Romania. And this really brings us to the core puzzle of our explainer today. How on earth did this relatively small, pretty crowded island nation end up having such a gigantic, outsized impact on the rest of the world? It's a fascinating question, and the answer really starts with its influence. You see, to really understand that outsized impact, we first have to appreciate the role the UK continues to play on the world stage. Its incredibly influential past is basically hardwired into its present. And this slide, well, it really lays out just how plugged in the UK still is. I mean, think about it. As one of only 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council, it has veto power over huge international decisions. It's a key member of NATO, the military alliance that really anchors Western defense. It's also at the table for the G7 and G20, where the world's biggest economies call the shots. Plus, through the Commonwealth, it has these deep ties to 56 other countries. And on top of all of that, the pound sterling is still one of the most traded currencies on the planet, a powerful legacy of its economic history. Okay, now let's get to the part that trips almost everyone up when it comes to the UK. What it's actually made of. It is not as simple as you might think. So here's the absolute key thing to wrap your head around. The United Kingdom is one single sovereign country when you look at it on a world map. But internally, it's actually a union of 4 separate historic nations, and each one has its own very distinct identity and culture. And here they are. First up, you have England, with its capital, London. Then, up north, you've got Scotland, with its capital in Edinburgh. Over to the west is Wales, with Cardiff as its capital. And then, just across the Irish Sea, you have Northern Ireland, with its capital in Belfast. So, see? 4 distinct countries, 4 capitals, but all part of one kingdom. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term Great Britain, and this is where things can get a little murky. It is so important to remember that Great Britain is a geographical term. It's the name of the island. It is not a country. It's simply the landmass that holds England, Scotland, and Wales. Notice who's missing? That's right, it does not include Northern Ireland. And you know, the full official name of the country actually gives the whole game away. It's the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That name is the complete formula. You take Great Britain, the island with England, Scotland, and Wales, and you add Northern Ireland. Simple as that. Okay, so we've covered the people and the political setup, but what about the land itself? The UK's geography is literally the bedrock of its entire story. It's shaped everything from its weather to its world-changing history. You know, just being an island in northwestern Europe is fundamental to the UK's identity. Being separated by the sea gave it a natural defense for centuries and helped it build an incredibly powerful maritime tradition. The climate? Yeah, it's mild and famously wet, which is why it's so green. And that landscape is unbelievably varied. You've got the rugged, dramatic mountains of Scotland and Wales, and then the gentle, fertile, rolling hills of southeastern England. But hidden right under all that green scenery were the keys to its future global power. Because, historically, the island was sitting on a gold mine of 3 resources that would go on to change the world: coal, iron, and tin. And what did those resources do? Well, they literally became the fuel of the Industrial Revolution. Having all that coal to power steam engines and all that iron to build machines and railways, it allowed Britain to become the world's very first industrial superpower. And in doing so, it completely rewrote the rules for human society. So now that we've got the hardware, the land, and its history, let's look at the political software that runs the country. It's a really unique mix of ancient tradition and modern democracy. The UK is what we call a constitutional monarchy. Now, what that basically means is, yeah, they have a king or queen who is the official head of states, but, and this is the important part, their power is seriously limited by the Constitution. The monarch's role is mostly symbolic, while the real power to run the country belongs to the elected government. And this is a really helpful way to see it. On one side, you've got the monarch, King Charles III. He's the head of state. He represents the nation, a symbol of continuity. Then on the other side, you've got the prime minister. That's the head of government, the person who actually runs the country and makes all the big policy decisions. Two leaders, two very different jobs. And the heart of that government is Parliament, which is made up of two houses. The main one is the House of Commons. It's filled with members of Parliament, or MPs, who are elected by you, the public. This is where laws are really hammered out and created. Then you have the second chamber, the House of Lords. These folks are mostly appointed. Their main job is to act as a kind of check on the Commons, reviewing laws and suggesting changes before they're passed. So let's pull all these threads together now and take a look at how this really complex nation sees itself and its place in the world today, especially after a pretty huge period of change. It's kind of a fun fact that the official motto of the monarch, Dio and mon joie, is actually in French. It means God and my right. It goes all the way back to the 15th century, and it basically says that the monarch's right to rule comes straight from God, not from any government or person on earth. It really speaks to this long, long history of asserted independence. Now, in its more recent history, a huge chapter with its relationship with Europe. The UK joined what would become the European Union back in 1973. But after 47 years, in a historic and controversial move we all know as Brexit, it decided to leave in 2020 to go its own way.
So let's just recap the big takeaways here. The UK is a small island that has punched way above its weight in history. It's a single state, but it's forged from four very distinct countries. Its government is a fascinating mix, a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary democracy. And today, it's still a major global player, trying to figure out its new path in a post-Brexit world.
Which leaves us with a final, really fascinating question to think about. For this old kingdom, so rich with history but facing all the challenges of a fast-changing modern world, what is its next chapter? That is something the entire world is watching very closely. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.